the 22nd of June, 1941. Under the codename Operation Barbarossa, Nazi Germany invades the Soviet Union, its ally in the war against Poland. Among the first territories to be occupied by Germany is Belarus, officially called the Belarusian Soviet Socialist Republic, which prior to the Nazi invasion had been under Russian control for almost 150 years. Within just a week of the invasion, the Germans capture the capital Minsk and immediately implement their genocidal policies. Among the first to be targeted are the Jews, who are confined to ghettos where they face extreme overcrowding, severe food shortages, and starvation. Along with the Jews, Hitler also intends to exterminate the Slavs, the dominant ethnic group in the region, whom the Germans view as racially inferior. As a result of Nazi policies, the local population is subjected to mass murder, shootings, starvation, and forced deportations. These brutal measures aim not only to decimate the local population, but also to clear the way for German colonization, aligning with Hitler's vision of Lebensraum, or living space, in the East. However, because some Belarusians cannot bear to see what is happening to their country and people, they join the resistance and kill the Nazi occupiers. One of them is Yelena Mazanik. Yelena Grigorievna Mazanik was born on the 2nd of March 1914 into a Belarusian peasant family in the village of Podjektyarnia, located in the Minsk gubernia, then part of the Russian Empire. She completed 6 grades of school, which was common for rural children at the time, before leaving in 1931 to begin working as a waitress. She soon married Boleslav Antonovich Tarletsky, a chauffeur employed by the NKVD, the People's Commissariat for Internal Affairs, functioning as the Interior Ministry and Secret Police of the Soviet Union. In 1935, Mazanik gave birth to her first son, but the child tragically died at the age of 1.5. After this loss, she changed jobs and started working at the gym of the Belarusian Council of People's Commissars. In 1939, she faced another tragedy when she gave birth prematurely to a second son, who also did not survive. That same year, Mazanik returned to her earlier position as a waitress. The Second World War started on the 1st of September 1939, when Nazi Germany invaded Poland. 2 years later, on Sunday, the 22nd of June 1941, Germany launched its massive assault on the Soviet Union, opening one of the deadliest fronts of the Second World War. For Nazi Germany, this attack was not an ordinary military operation. The war against the Soviet Union was a war of annihilation between German fascism and Soviet communism, a racial war between German Aryans and subhuman Slavs and Jews. Following the invasion of the Soviet Union, the Nazi regime unleashed a campaign of unprecedented brutality. As the German military advanced, Nazi forces, including the SS and Einsatzgruppen, which were Nazi mobile death squads, systematically targeted civilians, particularly Jews, communists, and other groups deemed undesirable by Nazi ideology. Entire villages were wiped out in mass executions, and millions of Soviet prisoners of war were subjected to starvation, forced labor, and summary execution. In July 1941, Wilhelm Kube was appointed General Commissar, meaning Commissioner General, for Vice-Rutenien, today's Belarus, with his headquarters in Minsk. In this role, Kube oversaw the extermination of the large Jewish population of this area. Over the following months, as German occupation policies grew increasingly brutal, Mazanik became involved in the underground resistance. Using the pseudonym of Galina, she infiltrated the Wehrmacht, the German armed forces, but later moved on to working as a waitress at a dining hall and casino for German officers. In June 1943, Yelena Mazanik was recruited to work as a maid in Wilhelm Kube's mansion. At that time, partisan groups in the Minsk area were already preparing to assassinate him. Authorization from Moscow had been secured, and local underground fighters were determined to remove one of the highest-ranking Nazi officials in occupied Belarus. On the 22nd of July 1943, a bomb detonated inside a theater in Minsk, killing around 70 German soldiers. However, Kube had left the building just minutes before the explosion. A second attempt on the 6th of September 1943 targeted a banquet for German officers, successfully killing 36 high-ranking officials. But once again, Kube was absent for unknown reasons. Further efforts to ambush him along a road he frequently traveled also failed. Kube's movements were heavily guarded, and eliminating him on the streets proved impossible. As the partisans searched for a more effective method, Yelena Mazanik's new position within Kube's household offered an unexpected opportunity. On the 8th of August 1943, Tatiana Kalita, another maid who had worked for Kube, introduced Mazanik to members of the partisan network tasked with the assassination. The network also included Nadezhda Troyan, operating under the pseudonym Kanskaya, and a partisan named Artur from the Diadi Koli detachment. During a series of secret meetings, Mazanik agreed to carry out the mission. Initially, there was discussion about poisoning Kube, but she opposed the plan, fearing that children living in the mansion might accidentally consume poisoned food. It was decided instead to use an explosive device. Before proceeding, her sister, Valentina Shtutskoy, helped verify the identities of key contacts, including Maria Osipova and Nikolai Pohlebayev, ensuring no German infiltration had compromised the operation. Because German reprisals were expected after the assassination, plans were made to evacuate Mazanik's family to partisan-controlled areas once the act was completed. The device, a small mine fitted with a chemical fuse set to detonate after 24 hours, was smuggled to Mazanik through her sister, hidden inside a basket of cranberries. After receiving the explosive, concerns quickly arose. The partisans feared that the dampness of their forest hideout had rendered the mine ineffective, as they heard no sound after activating the fuse. To resolve this, Mazanik and her comrades carefully dried the device in an oven, turning it repeatedly and shaking it in an effort to engage the mechanism. Once convinced it was operational, Mazanik prepared to carry out the mission. On the morning of the 21st of September 1943, Mazanik, carrying the live mine concealed under a handkerchief in her handbag, made her way back to Kube's residence. Upon entry, she was stopped and searched by German guards. One officer began to lift the handkerchief, but Mazanik quickly scolded him for his dirty fingers and explained that the package was a birthday present for Anita, Wilhelm Kube's wife. Her quick thinking allowed her to pass without discovery. Once inside, Mazanik initially hid the bomb inside a garbage pail before transferring it to the bathroom, keeping it concealed under her dress. At 10 a.m. that morning, Wilhelm Kube left for work, while his older children attended school, and Anita Kube went shopping with their youngest child. With the mansion nearly empty, Mazanik seized her chance. She slipped into Kube's bedroom and placed the explosive device under his bed, carefully positioning it between the mattress and the bed springs. Shortly after completing the task, she encountered a German officer, but another maid diverted his attention, allowing Mazanik to feign a toothache and leave the mansion without arousing suspicion. Meanwhile, her sister Valentina and the rest of the family were finalizing their escape from Minsk, traveling toward the safety of partisan-held territories. At 1:20 a.m. on the 22nd of September 1943, the bomb detonated, 40 minutes earlier than planned. However, because Kube had already gone to bed, the explosion blew him to pieces, killing him instantly. His pregnant wife, who had been sleeping in a separate bed, survived unharmed. Following the successful assassination, Mazanik joined the partisans in the forests and evaded Nazi capture. However, the repercussions were swift and brutal. In a devastating act of collective punishment, over 1,000 Minsk residents were forced to dig their own mass grave before being executed by German forces. Late at night, on the 12th of October 1943, Mazanik and the other conspirators were secretly flown out of Belarus to Moscow. After reporting on the mission and undergoing brief interrogations, they were officially recognized for their actions. On the 29th of October 1943, Yelena Mazanik, along with Nadezhda Troyan and Maria Osipova, was awarded the title Hero of the Soviet Union for her role in the assassination of Wilhelm Kube. The Second World War in Europe ended on the 8th of May 1945. In the following year, Mazanik joined the Communist Party before graduating from the Minsk Pedagogical Institute in 1952. She later worked as the deputy director of the main library of the National Academy of Sciences of Belarus. Despite losing contact with her husband, whether intentionally or due to the events of the war, she did not remarry. When Yelena Mazanik died on the 7th of April 1996 in Minsk in Belarus, she was 82 years old. More than 2 million Belarusians were killed during the Second World War, accounting for approximately 25% of the total population, the highest proportion of any country involved in the war. It is estimated that around 800,000 Jews, or 90% of the Jewish population of Belarus, were murdered during the Holocaust, countless of them at the hands of Nazi war criminals such as Wilhelm Kube. Thanks for watching the World History Channel. Be sure to like and subscribe and click the bell notification icon so you don't miss our next episodes. We thank you, and we'll see you next time on the channel.